Well, as we just heard, the High Court has put the federal government's Malaysian solution in limbo for at least the next 2 weeks. The full High Court will sit to consider if the plan to swap asylum seekers with Malaysia is lawful. The Immigration Minister, Chris Bowen, says his advice is that the government is on very strong legal ground. Heather Ewart's on Christmas Island, where asylum seekers have been spending their days praying to stay in Australia.
No amount of prayer was going to shift the political and bureaucratic nightmare on Christmas Island. But they all hoped and prayed and prayed. As day broke here, calm waters belied the confusion, uncertainty and disbelief amongst locals about the fate of asylum seekers scheduled to be flown to Malaysia this morning. Instead, a government-chartered plane sat on the tarmac at huge expense, pending the outcome of legal action to block or at least delay their removal.
Given that the matter is now in the High Court, I can't imagine that will be dealt with very quickly.
The backwards and forwards in between the soft touch and the hard line is just showing that it's about votes. So I would say to the government, you can't trade people's rights for votes.
There should be some control, should be some measures. But if one of it is to send this refugee to Malaysia just to see whether that will stop people smuggling business to the island, then it's worth a try.
But another boat was on the way, intercepted and escorted in yesterday, the second in a week to arrive to the government's Malaysia solution. Residents watched in anguish, some from the same vantage point where they'd seen last December's disastrous boat crash.
We thought with the disaster on 15th of December that there would be something in place to stop this. But fortunately the Navy have escorted this one in. But so much for the Malaysian solution.
The island was once again in the national spotlight. There seemed to be almost as many members of the media here as boat arrivals. Christmas Islanders were not sure that they liked the attention.
I think the fact that we've had so many incidents here over the past year, that the resilience of the community is being sorely tested.
Have people had enough?
I think so, yes.
There's usually a few families here swimming, having breakfast, and this scene that we have behind us is quite a lot different. So I think, you know, it's a lot of stress.
Malaysian government officials observed but were unavailable for comment, and Australian government immigration officials filmed it all to post on YouTube as a deterrent. This remote, very multicultural community is once again torn about the situation it finds itself in. While views are mixed about the government's Malaysia solution, there's concern right across the board here about what becomes of the children, the unaccompanied minors who arrived last week. It's a major problem for the government if that's also a common sentiment on the mainland, and one it doesn't seem to have taken into account.
It's an absolute disgrace. It's un-Australian. They've had weeks and months to think it through, and no one ever came up with a solution for the unaccompanied minors. Malaysia's a great country, but we just don't have the guarantee that unaccompanied children will be looked after the way they should be.
Clearly the people that I've spoken to are appalled by that idea and are very disturbed about that. But that's not to say that the majority of people don't want this policy to work, particularly if it will avoid the tragedy that we had here on the 15th of December last year.
In the detention centre itself, some new arrivals continue their hunger strike. This footage we obtained from officers inside shows one group, including a 7-year-old boy, who they say has had to receive medical treatment, along with another 17-year-old girl. 3 more were treated today.
The officers are finding it very difficult to deal with people who are not going to be processed in Australia. They now find themselves in a system of complete chaos where knee-jerk reactions by politicians can turn the already stressed and or crazy situation in the detention facilities that's been going for quite a while into complete chaos now.
Back on the mainland, a High Court ruling determined there was chaos for the government this time.
The real question here is whether the Australian government's conduct is lawful.
Its Malaysian solution in limbo, at least until a full hearing of the court in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, the recent boat arrivals to Christmas Island won't be going anywhere.
The court has ordered that the government must not expel our clients to Malaysia pending the outcome of the full trial of this matter. That's a very important outcome.
We will vigorously argue in the full bench hearing that this agreement meets not only our domestic legal requirements but our international obligations.
As for that chartered plane, it's still sitting idly at Christmas Island Airport.
And for the latest reaction to the High Court injunction, Heather Ewart joined me a short time ago. So Heather Ewart, what next for the asylum seekers who are at Christmas Island awaiting transfer to Malaysia?
They will be staying right here until this next hearing of the High Court. They won't be going anywhere. The families are being housed, the families and the unaccompanied minors are being housed in one section of the detention centre. The single men are being held elsewhere. I'm told the tension levels are extremely high. These people paid a lot of money to get here. They arrived to be told they were going to Malaysia. Now they're not going to Malaysia. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress. Some are on hunger strike. The officers, I'm told, inside the detention centre are getting worried about how to handle all of this, and no one really knows what's going to happen next.
Are there preparations underway for possible episodes of unrest, given the tension and the uncertainty that exists?
I'm told that the people who were perceived to have been the troublemakers during a couple of riots here recently have been moved elsewhere. But this is a whole unknown quantity that the island is dealing with now, because you've got these distressed, angry, upset people who have arrived here, and the tension levels are high, and so no one can be sure of what happens. But I think everyone would be hoping that they can contain those feelings.
How do the ordinary residents on Christmas Island feel about all of this?
I think it's fair to say they generally view this as one giant government bungle, and there's a fair amount of anger about that. They're pretty fed up with government policy on this issue, chopping and changing. There's no great love lost here for the Immigration Department at the best of times, and I think that feeling is going to intensify with what's happened today.
OK, Heather Ewart, thank you very much.
Thank you.